For 2,000 years, a voice was silenced. A prophet walked with God, was taken from this world without tasting death, and yet his words were buried, hidden, erased from history. His name was Enoch. His visions spoke of angels who defied heaven, of giants who once ruled the earth, of a final judgment written in the stars. For centuries, the rulers of faith declared his prophecies too dangerous, too mysterious, too true to be revealed. But fragments survived, hidden in caves, whispered in secret, waiting for a generation bold enough to listen. Now, the veil lifts. The lost prophecies of Enoch return, carrying warnings for our time and hope for those who dare to understand. This is not just an ancient tale, it is the voice of the forgotten prophet, rising again. In the deep currents of time, among the earliest memories of humanity, one name glows with a light untouched by mortality: Enoch. Unlike the kings of Mesopotamia or the pharaohs of Egypt, Enoch left behind no monuments, no pyramids, no temples carved in his honor. Instead, his monument was his walk with the divine, and his testimony was his vision. Genesis whispers his story with startling brevity. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. A man swallowed by mystery, lifted from the earth, his mortal journey unfinished. And yet, in that silence, in that absence, there was more than mere disappearance, there was a secret. For thousands of years, the canonical scriptures revealed only fragments of who he was. A prophet whose destiny was not death, but transformation. A man who beheld the secrets of heaven and returned with words so luminous, so uncontainable, that the keepers of tradition chose to hide them away. This is the beginning of the lost prophecies of Enoch. Enoch lived in the 7th generation from Adam, in an age when the world was still young and raw. Humanity had not yet been scattered by empires or bound by the borders of nations. It was a time when the veil between heaven and earth was thinner, when beings of light walked among mortals. The Watchers, angels appointed to observe and guide humanity, descended in those early days. They came not with the humility of servants, but with the hunger of rebels. These Watchers lusted after human daughters, taking them as wives, and from this forbidden union were born the Nephilim giants of immense stature, beings of power and terror who consumed the earth's resources and corrupted its people. And it was Enoch, chosen by God, who was taken into the very courts of heaven to witness the truth of these transgressions. His writings, preserved in what we call the Book of Enoch, unveil visions that stretch beyond human imagination. He was not a prophet of vague riddles or cryptic allegories. His prophecies thundered with detailed cosmic battles, angelic rebellion, divine judgment, and the ultimate destiny of both heaven and earth. But here lies the enigma. Why, if Enoch spoke such truth, were his words lost? Why, if he walked with God, were his visions silenced for over 2 millennia? The answer is as unsettling as it is revealing. His prophecies were too dangerous. They spoke of powers unseen, of corruption among heavenly beings, of mysteries that challenged the simple frameworks later religions sought to preserve. When the great councils of the Church Fathers gathered, when the canon of Scripture was forged in the crucible of authority, the writings of Enoch were declared apocryphal, cast aside, hidden, branded heresy. Yet in Ethiopia, in the highlands where ancient traditions flowed unbroken, his book survived. There, preserved in the Gaze language, the full Book of Enoch remained, even as the Western world forgot. For centuries, scholars whispered of its existence. For centuries, fragments lay buried in caves, waiting. Then, in 1947, the earth itself testified. The Dead Sea Scrolls emerged from the dust of Qumran, and with them, fragments of Enoch's writings were discovered, confirming that this was no fable, no fabrication. His prophecies had lived in the hearts of a hidden people for thousands of years, and now they returned at a time when humanity was once again reaching beyond the stars, when science and spirit collided, when ancient warnings felt strangely modern. What do these lost prophecies reveal? They speak of angels bound in chains of darkness, waiting for the day of judgment. They speak of heavenly tablets where the fate of nations is inscribed. They speak of a Messiah who will come not only to redeem, but to execute justice upon the mighty. They speak of floods and fire, of earth trembling at the weight of corruption, of a final reckoning where every hidden thing will be revealed. And in these prophecies lies the heart of the mystery. Enoch was not just recording the past, he was foretelling the future. His visions reach across time, a voice echoing into generations not yet born. He speaks of an age when knowledge will multiply, when men will soar into the heavens, when the secrets of creation will be laid bare. His words linger like a prophecy, written for us for the age of technology, for the world of unraveling truths, for a humanity caught between hubris and humility. And yet, we must ask why now? Why do Enoch's words resurface in this time after 2 millennia of silence? Perhaps the answer lies in the very rhythm of prophecy itself. Truth, when buried, does not die. It waits. It germinates beneath the soil of time until the appointed moment when humanity is ready or desperate enough to hear it again. But to hear Enoch is to enter a realm where the boundaries of the seen and unseen blur. It is to recognize that history is not merely the tale of kings and empires, but of forces older than time, forces that warred in the heavens before humanity drew its first breath. It is to accept that what we call myth may in truth be memory, and that what we call forgotten may be waiting to be revealed. This is the forgotten prophet, and his voice is rising again. But the question remains, will we listen? Enoch's first vision was not of glory, but of terror. He saw the watchers fall, saw the corruption of mankind, saw judgment written in fire. He saw the flood long before Noah built his ark, long before the waters consumed the earth. And in those visions, he understood that time itself is a cycle, that what has been will be again. His prophecies were not confined to one age, but written as patterns, echoing through history, repeating until the final fulfillment. Thus, Section 1 ends with a doorway, a recognition that Enoch's prophecies are not ancient relics, but living words. In the chapters to come, we will descend deeper into his visions, into the secrets hidden for 2,000 years, and uncover what they mean not only for the past, but for the time we are living in now. The silence of the heavens is never truly silent. Beyond the stars lies a story that Enoch alone was permitted to witness. The angels who fell the watchers were not vague shadows or poetic metaphors. They were beings of brilliance, clothed in light, created for holiness, yet undone by desire. Their descent was not a gentle fall, but a rebellion against the order of heaven. They gazed upon the daughters of mankind and chose corruption over purity. And so, the eternal crossed into the mortal, and the forbidden union gave birth to something the earth itself could not bear, the Nephilim. The Book of Enoch records with unsettling clarity how these beings grew into giants of immense power, consuming the world's resources, warring with mankind, and teaching forbidden arts. It was Azazel, one of their leaders, who revealed to humanity the secrets of war, how to fashion weapons from metal, how to spill blood with sharpened blades. He taught enchantments, sorcery, and hidden knowledge that twisted the natural order. Humanity, still innocent and unguarded, was corrupted by the fire of this illicit wisdom. The earth itself cried out under their weight. The blood of the innocent soaked the ground, and the cries reached the throne of heaven. And so judgment was decreed not only upon men, but upon the watchers who transgressed their place. It was here that Enoch was chosen. Taken into the presence of God, lifted by angelic guides, he was shown visions no mortal had seen before. He was brought before the Ancient of Days, seated upon a throne of glory, surrounded by fire, attended by countless hosts of angels. There, Enoch witnessed the pronouncement of judgment against the fallen ones. The watchers who had once shone like stars were bound in chains, cast into the abyss of darkness, imprisoned until the day when all creation would be judged. But it was not merely the fate of angels that Enoch recorded. He was also shown the destiny of mankind. He was given access to the heavenly tablets, mystical records inscribed before the foundation of the world. These tablets, according to Enoch's visions, contain the unfolding of history itself. They reveal the rise and fall of kingdoms, the cycles of corruption and renewal, the appointed times of judgment, and the ultimate triumph of righteousness. To Enoch, history was not random chance, but a script written upon eternal stone. Imagine, for a moment, what it means that before the first empire was built, before the first city rose from the dust, the story of humanity was already inscribed in the heavens. Every age, every trial, every redemption was foreseen, woven into a pattern. The heavenly tablets were not merely records, they were destiny itself. This was the heart of Enoch's prophecy, that nothing is hidden from the eyes of God and nothing is without purpose. The deeds of men, the rebellion of angels, the trembling of the earth, all are part of a cosmic story unfolding toward an appointed end. The Watchers, bound in their chains, knew this. They trembled as Enoch stood in their presence. The Book of Enoch tells us that they begged him to intercede, to plead on their behalf, to seek forgiveness from the Most High. They who once descended in arrogance now cowered in despair, and Enoch, in obedience, carried their petition to the throne of God. But the answer came, unyielding and final. Judgment has been decreed. There will be no peace, no forgiveness, for those who corrupted creation. This vision was not only for Enoch's time, it was a message for all generations. Corruption, no matter how powerful, cannot escape judgment. There is an appointed time for reckoning, written on the tablets of heaven. Yet within these visions, there is also hope. For Enoch beheld not only judgment, but restoration. He saw the coming of a figure, radiant and majestic, whom he called the Son of Man, a title that centuries later would echo in the words of prophets and in the teachings of Christ. This Son of Man would sit on the throne of glory, execute justice upon the wicked, and bring everlasting peace to the righteous. For Enoch, the future was not only about destruction, but about the triumph of light over darkness. The lost prophecies reveal that history moves like a great wheel, turning through ages of corruption and renewal. Just as the Watchers corrupted mankind once, so too would the spirit of rebellion return in later generations. Just as the Nephilim once ruled the earth, so too would powers arise that defy the Creator and oppress the innocent. And just as judgment once fell in the days of Noah, so too would it fall again, at the appointed hour. But what makes Enoch's visions so haunting is their detail. He speaks of stars falling from heaven, of mountains melting like wax, of oceans roaring and overflowing. He describes heavenly beings recording every deed, every secret, as though the universe itself is a witness against the corruption of mankind. He portrays the earth as alive, as though creation itself groans under the weight of sin and waits for deliverance. This imagery, written thousands of years ago, resonates even now. In an age of rising seas, trembling earth, and unseen powers shaping the destiny of nations, Enoch's prophecies read not like ancient myth, but like headlines of a world unraveling. The heavenly tablets that Enoch saw were not meant to remain hidden forever. The fragments we possess are but pieces of a greater story, a testimony preserved against time. And in these fragments lies a mystery that continues to haunt scholars and seekers alike. If Enoch's words were excluded from the canon, was it because they were unworthy or because they revealed too much? Consider this. Enoch's writings expose a cosmic war, a rebellion that began before humanity and continues to echo through history. They reveal the existence of knowledge withheld, of truths hidden from the masses, of destinies written in heavenly archives. To release such revelations is to challenge the structures of power, to remind humanity that the story is far larger than kings, empires, or institutions. Perhaps that is why the words were buried. Yet buried seeds grow, and the rediscovery of Enoch's writings is no accident. Like the Watchers chained in darkness until the appointed time, so too have these prophecies waited, bound in scrolls, hidden in caves, preserved in remote lands, until the moment when humanity would need them again. This is the mystery of the Watchers and the hidden tablets, a story of rebellion and judgment, but also of destiny and hope. A reminder that nothing escapes the gaze of heaven, that even the fallen are held accountable, and that the righteous are never forgotten. And so, as we turn from this vision, we step deeper into the labyrinth of Enoch's prophecies. If Section 1 revealed the forgotten prophet, and Section 2 unveiled the Watchers and the heavenly tablets, then what lies ahead will bring us closer still to the heart of the mystery. For in Section 3, we will discover how Enoch's visions reach across time not only to his generation, not only to the days of Noah, but into our own age. His words, sealed for 2,000 years, whisper warnings for the present and revelations for the future. The veil of history grows thinner, and the voice of Enoch grows louder. The question is no longer what did he see, but what does it mean for us now? Prophecy is not a relic of the past. It is a mirror held up to the future, and in Enoch's visions, that mirror reflects with startling clarity. The voice of a prophet who walked the earth before the flood now stretches into our own age, speaking to a world caught in turmoil. His words, hidden for 2,000 years, are not distant echoes, they are thunder rolling on the horizon of our time. Enoch wrote of a generation unlike any before it, a time when knowledge would increase beyond measure. He spoke of men who would soar above the earth, moving through the heavens as though the skies belonged to them. He spoke of secrets once hidden in creation being laid bare, of wisdom multiplying in ways never imagined. To an ancient world, such words might have sounded like riddles. To us, they read like prophecy fulfilled. We live in the very age Enoch described. Knowledge has exploded in ways our ancestors could never have conceived. Machines think, information spreads at the speed of light, and humanity reaches into the heavens not with wings of angels, but with rockets of fire. Satellites circle the globe, piercing the mysteries of the stars, while technology reshapes the very fabric of life. And yet, in the midst of this brilliance, we see shadows, the same shadows Enoch warned of long ago. For knowledge without wisdom is a double-edged sword. The Watchers taught forbidden arts, and mankind used them for war, corruption, and power. Today, we uncover secrets of DNA, manipulate the code of life itself, and craft weapons with the power to unmake nations. We split the atom, harness the energy of stars, and hold in our hands the power of creation and destruction. Enoch foresaw this, a generation swollen with knowledge, yet vulnerable to corruption. He wrote of a time when the earth itself would cry out again, just as it did in the days of the Nephilim. He described trembling ground, roaring seas, mountains melting, and stars falling. To his ancient audience, these images spoke of divine judgment. To us, they carry haunting resonance. Earthquakes reshaping cities, oceans rising against the coasts, fire consuming forests, meteors streaking across the sky. The language of prophecy and the language of science converge in ways impossible to ignore. Enoch also spoke of powers rising in the last days, leaders who exalt themselves, systems that oppress, and forces that turn humanity against the divine order. He saw the repetition of the Watchers' rebellion in human form, rulers who seize power not to serve but to dominate, who twist knowledge into tyranny. The ancient giants are gone, but their spirit endures in systems and empires that devour without mercy. And yet, his vision does not end in despair. For Enoch also saw the coming of the elect one, the Son of Man, who would sit on the throne of glory. He foresaw a figure who would not only redeem but also judge, who would bring justice to the oppressed and silence to the corrupt. For Enoch, this was no distant dream, but an anchor of hope woven into the destiny of creation itself. This figure, radiant and terrible, would separate the righteous from the wicked. The proud would be humbled, the violent silenced, the faithful vindicated. Every hidden deed would be brought to light, every injustice answered. And it is here that Enoch's vision speaks most urgently to us, for we live in an age drowning in hidden deeds. Behind the glittering lights of progress, corruption festers. Behind the screens of technology, darkness thrives. Enoch's warning is clear. No secret remains forever hidden. The heavenly tablets record all, and judgment waits for its appointed hour. But what makes these prophecies so haunting for our generation is their immediacy. For centuries, they were whispers from the past. Today, they read like news from tomorrow. A world of multiplying knowledge. A humanity reaching into the heavens. A creation trembling under the weight of corruption. A rising cry for justice. And so we are left with the question, why now? Why were Enoch's prophecies hidden for 2,000 years, only to resurface in our time? Perhaps the answer lies not in the silence of history, but in the design of destiny. Truth comes when it is needed most. The words of Enoch are not accidents of archaeology. They are revelations timed for a generation standing on the edge of fulfillment. Enoch's visions reach across millennia like a bridge, connecting the days before the flood with the days before the final judgment. Just as Noah's generation was warned before the waters came, so too are we warned before the fire falls. The rediscovery of Enoch's writings is not a curiosity, it is a trumpet, a reminder that the story is nearing its climax. And if his prophecies are indeed for us, then they demand a response. They are not meant to entertain the curious, but to awaken the sleeping. They challenge us to see beyond the illusions of progress, to recognize that the story of humanity is not simply about empires and inventions, but about a cosmic struggle that began long before us and will conclude in fire and glory. For Enoch did not only see judgment, he saw hope. He saw the righteous shining like stars, the faithful gathered into peace, the earth restored to harmony. His vision is not only of endings, but of beginnings, a world renewed, creation healed, light triumphant. This hope is not distant. It is as real as the corruption around us. It is the promise that the darkness will not have the last word. So as we step out of Enoch's prophecies into our own time, we must ask, are we living in the days he saw? Are we the generation he described, swollen with knowledge, trembling on the edge of judgment, yet offered the hope of restoration? If so, then the rediscovery of his words is no coincidence, it is a summons. Section 3 ends with urgency, but also with anticipation. For in the final section, we will descend into the ultimate question. What is the destiny of mankind as revealed by Enoch? What awaits at the end of the story written on the heavenly tablets? His visions point not only to the corruption of the present, but to the glory of the end. And there, in the final words of the forgotten prophet, lies both the warning and the promise for all who would listen. Section 4. The visions of Enoch do not fade into silence. They crescendo into the destiny of all creation. His eyes, lifted beyond time, beheld not only the corruption of his generation, nor the shadows of the watchers, nor even the warnings for our age. He was shown the ultimate conclusion, the destiny of mankind and the unveiling of eternity. Enoch describes a great judgment, unlike any before. The flood cleansed the earth once, but what he saw was fire, a refining blaze that would purify creation itself. Mountains would melt like wax, oceans would roar, and the heavens would tremble. Thrones would be set, books would be opened, and every deed, both hidden and revealed, would be weighed. The watchers, bound in chains, would be cast into utter darkness. The wicked, unrepentant and unyielding, would meet their end. And the righteous, though tested and refined, would shine with everlasting light. This vision is not merely of destruction, but of renewal. The fire is not only judgment, but purification. Just as gold is refined in the furnace, so too will creation be purified of corruption. Enoch saw a new earth, a place where the curse of rebellion was lifted, where the harmony of Eden returned. Rivers of life flowed, trees bore fruit in abundance, and the righteous walked in peace with the Creator. The shadows of the watchers were gone, the chains of corruption broken, and the light of eternity dawned. But the heart of this vision was not simply the fate of the world, it was the appearance of the elect one, the Son of Man, enthroned in glory. Enoch describes him with awe, radiant, terrible, and merciful all at once. He is the judge of kings, the redeemer of the faithful, the one before whom all creation bows. Thrones crumble, empires fall, but his dominion endures forever. For Enoch, this was not abstract theology, it was a vision of ultimate reality. All of history, all of destiny, all of prophecy points to him. And here lies the mystery. Enoch's vision is not bound to the past. It speaks to every generation, but especially to the last. For if his words are true, then history is not a cycle of endless repetition, but a story with a climax. We are not adrift in chaos. We are racing toward an appointed end. The heavenly tablets record the path, and the final chapter is one of both judgment and hope. But what does this mean for us now, standing in the shadow of his words? It means that the age we live in is not merely another era, but part of a divine story unfolding before our eyes. The corruption of knowledge, the trembling of the earth, the cries for justice, these are not random. They are signs that the story is nearing its conclusion. Enoch's rediscovered prophecies are a trumpet, calling us to awaken, to recognize that the wheel of history is turning faster than we imagine. The destiny of mankind, as Enoch saw, is a choice between two paths: corruption or righteousness, rebellion or faith, darkness or light. The Watchers chose rebellion and were cast into chains. The generation of Noah chose corruption and was swept away by the flood. But those who walked in faith, Enoch himself, Noah after him, were preserved, lifted above the judgment. This pattern is not ancient alone, it is eternal. Each generation faces the choice anew. Enoch's call to us is simple yet profound: to live with the awareness that history has an appointed end, to recognize that our deeds are not lost in the shadows, but written in the tablets of heaven, to understand that the corruption of the world, however powerful, will not prevail, and to hold fast to the hope of renewal, the promise of light beyond the fire. For Enoch did not merely record judgment, he recorded destiny. The righteous would not be forgotten. Their names were inscribed in the heavenly books, their tears gathered, their faith remembered. They would inherit a world renewed, a creation restored, a peace everlasting. In a time when shadows loom large, this is the promise that carries us forward. And so we arrive at the final call of Enoch's prophecies. They are not given to us to satisfy curiosity or to decorate the pages of forgotten scrolls. They are given as a warning, a summons, and a hope. A warning that corruption leads to destruction. A summons to awaken, to choose righteousness, to prepare for what is coming. And a hope that no matter how dark the night, the dawn of restoration will come. The lost prophecies of Enoch, hidden for 2,000 years, return to us now not as relics, but as revelations. They remind us that the story of humanity is larger than we imagine, that unseen powers shape the course of history, and that an appointed day of reckoning awaits. They whisper of chains broken, of darkness defeated, of light triumphant. This is the destiny of mankind as revealed to the forgotten prophet. Not endless chaos, not meaningless cycles, but a story moving toward its fulfillment. A story that began before the flood, echoes through our time, and concludes in eternity. And so, in the final words of Enoch, we find both warning and promise. The time is written, the judgment is appointed, the hope is assured. Choose your place in the story. You have now walked through the forgotten visions of Enoch the Watchers, the hidden tablets, the warnings for our age, and the destiny of mankind. These are not idle tales, they are a summons. The question is not whether the story will end, it will. The question is where you will stand when the final chapter is written. Do not let these words fade into the noise of another day. Seek the truth. Awaken to the reality that history has an appointed end. Share the message, for silence in the face of prophecy is its own form of rebellion. And most of all, choose the light, for the darkness cannot prevail against it. The lost prophecies of Enoch have returned for such a time as this. The story is not finished, but the ending has already been written. The tablets of heaven are open and the voice of Enoch still speaks. The only question left is, will you listen